Thank you so much for organizing this interesting event. Thank you for all the other speakers, for Olivia and Robin for their interesting topic. Hi guys, and you already presented me, so I can go further. In this talk, we will speak about failing. We will ask questions as such as, is that bad? Can we use failure to learn? And strange question, does failing really exist? There is only one kind of mistakes, or maybe there were different way of doing mistakes. So this is a silly photo of me to present myself, and then let's start with a bit of etymology. Okay, so error comes from the Latin errare, which has a double meaning. It means to wander, but also to get wrong. So you can get lost or wrong. In a way, is questioning the social norms. So it's all about going around. All these verbs and meanings are around moving in a way. So living the right way, the maps, both literally and more philosophically. So in a more general way, doing an error is rejecting social norms, something that you can do on purpose or not, and also believing something wrong. If someone is wrong about thinking, having an idea is because this idea is not my idea, or is doing something that you will pay for at a certain moment. So very reassuring, isn't it? Let's go a little bit into error inside the game field. Okay, I will propose a very simple division because we don't have that much time. Let's assume that we can talk about game and play, and so we can say that in game, where you have more strict rule, you have strong rules that are part of the training, so you can fail to get better, to improve strategies, and to win more match in the future. Game is a space for error, where you can experiment failure and put yourself in danger while in a safe position. The worst that could happen is to lose a match, to lose a party. But what about play, where rules are more fluid, where you are confronted to social norms, where the rules are not easily in a book? So what about play? What about activities where rules are less clear about winning and how to behave? Like in larp, for example. There is a difference from failing from different purposes and goals. In larp, some rules are social norms. The one that larp override on the real one that we know and respect every day. Those rules are fluid, not written. Maybe you will break the rules without even knowing that. So failing in larp can literally happen every second. Probably no one of us played the larp without failing dozens of times. Maybe we forgot a plot, we missed a relationship, we did a poor preparation, we did not work to have the right chemistry with our co-players. So let's do a little experiment, okay? Close your eyes and think about your biggest fail in larp. I mean, the biggest error you ever made in your entire larp life, okay? So close your eyes and think a bit about that. It's an hard choice, right? There are plenty. Now think for a moment. Choose just pick one of those errors. Why this error happened? What were the consequences after this thing you did wrong? We can fail in an internal level and external level. Let's say the external level is rules, organizers, co-players, expectations, destroying other people's experience. On an internal level, we can have your own preparation, your own expectation on yourself and your performance, or your LARP agenda is different from the LARP agenda that the organizer prepared for that LARP. So, possible error in LARPs. I will propose you 2 mistakes among the hundreds and hundreds I did. So let's start with a communication failure. Okay, it happened during this LARP. It was the first Chaos League International LARP and was called New Atlantis. As you can see from the description in the slide, it was a post-apocalyptic LARP where water almost finished all over the world. So this terrible water crisis, of course, changed humanity and makes humans behave in a very different way, aimed to survive day by day. So there are some pictures. And the problem, let's say, is that it was our first international LARP. And we were not aware that communication is so important. Better say, we were aware of that, but we were not aware that international audience is very different from your local community. Of course, it's very easy to say that after I failed in this incredible way. I will tell you a little story, okay? Try to make it as funny as possible. We arrived at the location with all the players. We are ready to go, just some final explanation. There was something I needed to tell them, but I can't remember. So maybe it's not important. I told to myself, so I'm good, it's fine. The game started with a nice solo mountain walk. Each player had to reach alone the location. So they were to experience the loneliness of being one of the last survivors on Earth. So you start walking 1 hour in the mountain alone, and then you reach the location and start playing with the other. The setting is post-apocalyptic. Players have to reach the safe place. Location is a beautiful isolated house on the top of the mountain. So I explained the route well, let's say well, to all the other players, to all the players. There was something in my head, but I was like, no, I think it's fine, everything is fine. So everything started, and I was the last one on the path, catching up with the player who may have been left behind to not leave anyone behind in the hood all the night long. But then I saw something strange. You know, I was supposed to be the only one to reach the location by myself, but I saw all the players near a little house that were not part of the game. So that precise moment, I remember what I was supposed to say to them. Too late, unfortunately. The first, the thing that I needed to say is the first house is not in the game, belongs to a resident who doesn't know anything about the LARP. So thankfully, it was not home, and it was fine. So I said, okay, let's move this player, and that's all. But then there were too many. There were 80 players all around the location, start to break into the house. They were trying to break down the door and the window, and we were just terrified. I told the rest of the team, we have to stop them, but how to do that? Is that okay to stop the game from their LARP background, or is something that cannot work for people coming from another kind of LARP? Maybe it won't work, maybe they won't listen to us, and they were also petrified by this very big mistake that started our first international LARP. So the fear of being perfect paralyzed us completely. So we don't even know if there are some international way to stop a game, a signal or whatever. So they tried, while we were thinking about that, they were trying to do any kind of stuff, and they tried to break in the fence and going to the animals. Yes, there were also animals. Some of them tried to catch the animals to hit them, because they are survivors. They are not eating well from days and days. So hit animals at the lab, I mean, kill and eat them. What's wrong with these people? Or better say, what's wrong with us? So what we learned, communication is about details. So you have your little tip, international audience, we discovered by failing that is very different from our local scene. Clear communication and details matters a lot. Don't assume that others share your vision about every possible thing. Feel free to stop a situation when it became strange. Stop and say you are wrong and start again. You failed, don't be afraid. I wish I would have known that at that time. Let's talk about another failure. Yes, rifles. So we were doing this larp, Sahara Expedition larp, and we had some military in the fiction, so military need to have rifles. But what's the problem is that when Tunisian police find you with 20 fake rifles and try to arrest you because they are clearly, they know that you are clearly organized an in-costume revolution, and so they take all your rifles, they force you to pay a lot of money, and they take your rifles. So study other countries' laws, maybe in school when you do logistics, and also don't go around with too much weapons. And are you sure that your rifles are fake and blank fire? Police is not. So we ended up, if you don't know that, you ended up in some local theater company in the rehearsal room negotiating for 20 fake rifles. Since it's the only one theater company in the region, rent these 20 rifles is way more expensive than buy a real one. So if you want to organize a LARP in Tunisia, now you know. So why we need to talk about our failing? LARP of all sorts are more and more cool. We have skills, share knowledge. We as the LARP scene all over the world, I mean, we have meeting like this one, brave players and designer. It's cool, and fight for perfection, fight to get better is human, is powerful. But let's not fight, this is my idea, for eradicating of failing. We don't need perfection, or we need perfection. So what's the problem? I mean, perfection sounds really cool, sounds perfect. So what's the problem if we are creating this sort of dictatorship of perfection? You raise up requirement to get into LARP. So maybe less people will play LARP if everything sounds just perfect and there is no place for mistake. And so we will push people far from LARP instead of doing the contrary. You can also create this Kafka effect, let's say. I mean, make people dismiss projects that they think are not good enough, but maybe they are. Kafka, you know, the Franz Kafka, the well-known writer, was sure that his writing was crap, and he asked to his friend to burn everything down after his death. Luckily, they didn't do, and so we have that. But you know, self-judgment can be hard if you compare yourself to a rules, to an idea of perfection that not even exists. So, and what else? You can rise up the stress factor. So you generate stress, and stress can be very hard for working on your project or keep your organizer team together. And also, you can make people stop to play and organize even. You create a star system, of course, I'm exaggerating, but it can happen, you know, if there is someone perfect, you need to go in that direction. This person becomes a big star. I don't think we need a star system. We have star system all over the world in every field. Maybe we can try to limit, try to restrict this very human mechanism into larp scene. If you are all aware, maybe we can achieve that. And also, we create a standard that doesn't exist. Also as a part of this star system stuff. And you can also push toward homologation, because of course, if there is perfection, if there is a star system, if you are not good enough, how you can be good enough? Doing the thing that people are already doing, which is not exactly always the best choice, because we already have this kind of LARP, so maybe you can do something different. Or you do the same kind of LARP in your own way. So if we put this standard and we say that everything who falls not in the standard is a mistake becomes a weapon to keep people away and to lower down the collaborative way of doing LARP. But also we can have different kind of mistake, of course. So another kind of mistake, and this is another example, was during this LARP, was a urban fantasy LARP. Let's say all the players, we played in Rome, in town of Rome, and all this player was sure to be sort of new Camelot knights. So we live like hobos for 5 days in the core of Rome in this location. We were like 95 people following the Camelot knight moral code. So we behave in a very strange way among people in Rome. What happened during this lab? Some failure that had positive effect. Okay, for example, we had, so this is where we're sleeping all together. You see the code is written on the wall. And so, for example, some errors were generative. For example, at the end of this LARP, a player come to me and say, I really enjoyed it to talk with this NPC. He's really a great guy, and he's acting like an oboe, like a real oboe. Congrats to him. The problem is there was not NPC playing a hobo, so this guy talked with the real hobo while in character, and the other guy that was a bit drunk answered on the same level. So they had this very half an hour cool conversation, but he missed, this player missed the location where he was supposed to be, and this failure made him having this discussion that other ways you maybe won't have never in your life. And this LARP also we had players over-interpreting sign in town. For example, you know, since you are a modern knight, you see a graffiti, for example, on the wall with a dragon. So you think that the dragon is for you, that this is an actual dragon in a wall form, and maybe you have to go where this dragon is pointing his finger. So you go, and this player did that and explored the city that were not part of the game. So they missed some good stuff we prepared for them, but they experienced Rome in another way, override their own idea of going around town, and so basically this error leads them to an experience that were better than the one we designed for them. And so this is another example of generative failure. And also there were some funny accidents with the police, but I won't tell you, and everything was fine. It just they didn't leave the roads and talk with the police while saying they were Camelot knight. Was very funny. So other picture of them in the location doing exercise, going to discotheque and visit Rome, and writing on the wall. And also other signal that we put in the lab. We put fake advertising for them. So apparently failing is something ambiguous, something that can be something and the contrary. So it can be something positive, of course. It's very easy. We all understand that you can fail and learn and be better. This is the most easy way to interpret mistakes. You know, something positive you can learn from, you can exploring outside social practices, but also, can we learn something from it? Yes, but also mistakes is something we don't want. It's something that maybe destroy our plan. It can be good, but also is an anarchist element who is there not to please us, and maybe it's just a mess. It's something that exists regardless as our expectation or our will to be better. Maybe it's our shadow in a way. So some possible solutions to this question. Of course, I don't have solution to these very big issues, but we can start to share some thought about that. So we can just embrace the failure. We all fail at some point. We are persons, so we project a shadow. Or we can try to use it as a tool. Maybe we can develop a culture of playtest. Maybe organizer can run of the LARP that cost less, that are not complete but still playable, to have better final result. There are some examples, people are doing that, but it's not that common in, let's say, weekend-long LARP. In chamber LARP is easy to do, but maybe we can thinking more about mistakes and try to test our mistake, put this mistake into practice and see the result instead of trying to eliminate that. Or maybe we're afraid to give our failure to the players. In that way, maybe we can try to use that as a tool. And also, we can create space for mistakes. Maybe we can prepare the condition that can make us fail. Maybe at some point we will start to do failure design some situations that are still safe, because we don't have to use this excuse to, oh, I can go wrong and then be disrespectful toward our players. But we can talk to them, we can explain that we are trying to design a situation which is not harmful for them, but that maybe can fail. Some revolution started by mistake, for example. So what we can do in the end, we can always say that each organizer, each players want to be brave. Not each of them, but maybe something that we want to explore. This braveness. And so we always say that, but what it is, in the end, being brave, what it is playing with failure. Fail can be seen as a duty for larper. We can maybe have this moral duty to fail, because we have a community that understands us. That if we sustain the community can sustain us and help us to fail. I mean, not that much of moment on our life you can fail. In LARP you can, if you have some sort of agreement with your player. And so if we are honest and care to them, they can allow us and help us to fail. So I would like to conclude with this quotation from Bertolt Brecht and say that was a pleasure to be there with all of you, and thank you so much.
Hello, Alessandro, I'm back. Thank you for your talk. It was really interesting, and we have some questions, so we can start with them. So the first question is, do you feel like this desire to be overly perfect as a LARP organizer or more of a problem for you today than it was 10 years ago? Because it sure is for me.
Speaking from my point of view, I think yes, it is. We were in the middle of of course, Corona changed everything, but until February, we were like in a very, very good moment for LARP scene, for game in general, but let's stick to the LARP. So we had more international LARP, more local LARP, and every LARP, to me at least, I'm a big fan of LARP, so everything was like so exciting, so cool. We are going on the top. But then in the end, we risk to inflate this bubble, and this bubble can burst at a given moment. So we need to be this is very schizophrenic approach we need to have in this regard. We need to get better and better. But if we can leave this 1%, 2% of mistake into our LARP organization, maybe we can learn and change things. We need to design that, because risk for failure is always there. But if it's not designed, it's just accident that can happen. But if you put a little mechanism, a small dynamics in your LARP to see how it works, to not replicate your stuff again and again, this is what I want to do now. So, and I find this way to escape from this will of being overly perfect, because sometimes can be very bad for LARP.
Okay, thank you. And the next question is, how does the Italian LARP scene look like?
This is a big question. Of course, I cannot speak for for an entire larp scene, but I'm very positive about that. I'm seeing more and more interesting project coming on. Of course, always before Corona, but still now people are writing cool stuff. We don't know when we will play, but they are working, of course. And which is interesting, we have some interesting international larp scene. So Italy do that relatively regular. So it's cool for me to not move from my country and play with people from all over the world. This is priceless. And also there is a cool chamber larp or mini larp scene called What You Want. We are publishing book about that. Right now, while we're speaking, I just left for a moment the online larp festival that we are running with Chaos League that will last today and tomorrow, and we will have an international version at the end of January. So also explaining in online larp is cool. And we had finally, just to conclude this question, an organization of organization in Italy. It's called Larp Italia, which is a way for, now we have like 65 different organization teams meeting together. It is a software, it's not a syndicate, of course, but it is a platform where we meet, where we discuss. And so I'm very positive about what's happened. The majority of the scene, like I think everything in the world, is more fantasy larp, combat larp, let's say more traditional, but we have also, let's say, blockbuster or chamber larp. So it's very diverse. I'm very happy with that.
Okay, thank you. I hope maybe next year I try some Italian larp. Yeah. It can be very nice, I'm sure. The next question is, I'm really sorry now that my talk wasn't in English, because it would answer a few of how to work with failure questions. Maybe we can get in touch with this. Yes, it's wrote by Estanor. Estanor was a speaker at the morning about problems and failures with in larps. Yeah. So,
so if you can tell me his contacts, I will be totally okay with talk with. It will be super cool.
Yes, we can. You can share your experiences. Maybe the last question is, I would think trial runs or beta tests will surface many of these problems, but that is hard for big events. Are there ways to test parts or try things out?
Okay, it's an ongoing process, so I don't have a very clear answer, but I have some direction that I think is interesting to follow, or at least I'm trying to do that. One thing is trying to fraction your larp in different portions. For example, if you analyze some larp are other larp inside, let's say, for example, you say in that scene, all the afternoon player will do that. And you can just try to do that to see it work. Of course, it's not ideal because you need the whole picture. But if you can try some scene, is at least something. Or you can add some, or if your larp have some mechanics, some rules, is easiest to test just rules. You can have playtester to play this kind of part. And also, another way to test is to go to larp that are similar and see if your idea were also in this larp. Check if it worked at this larp and talk with the organizer and try to connect with them and share the same issues and maybe the same solution. So part of the test can be run on the field, but another very important part of the play test, even if it's not a real play test, is talking with people. Try to talk with as much people that are doing something that are in your same direction, and connect to on a platform can really, really improve your skills as a designer and as a player.